Hello guys, and welcome to this video. Now this one will probably be a bit confused and a bit longer because I'm trying to tie certain topics, certain very different topics together that on the first glance might have nothing to do with each other, but I hope I can explain it in a way or kind of set it up in a way that it becomes comprehensible and not just a completely crazy gibberish from my side. So I would like to start with an article that I found in the New Scientist, and that article is called Noise Kills and Blights Lives in Europe. That article is from 2011, so more than 10 years old, and I don't think that the situation has become any better in the meantime. Now, the article is by Andy Coughlin, and it goes like this. Western Europeans suffer a heavy toll of death and disability through exposure to excessive noise, making it second only to air pollution as an environmental cause of ill health. That's the conclusion of the world's first comprehensive report on the health effects of noise, published this week by the World Health Organization and the European Commission's Joint Research Centre. Between them, Western Europe's inhabitants, with an estimated adult population in 2001 of 340 million, were found to lose as much as 1.6 million years of healthy living per year. The authors reduced the headline figure to 1 million to rule out the possibility of double counting. We are very confident that a million is the bottom line, says co-author Rok Ho Kim, who coordinates the WHO's noise program. The toll from air pollution is estimated at 4.5 million years of healthy living lost per year. No other environmental hazard comes anywhere near these two, says Kim. Deadly noise. The most dramatic effects are in heart disease, because exposure to noise can kill people. Altogether, Europeans are estimated to lose a total of around 61,000 years of healthy life annually through noise-associated heart disease and suffer an estimated 3,000 deaths, Kim says. Noise has been shown to raise blood pressure and blood-borne concentrations of stress hormones and fatty materials, even when people are asleep. These can accumulate over time to block blood vessels and trigger a heart attack. Although heart disease is the most serious cause of death from noise, the largest single impact on health is through sleep disturbance, which deprives Europeans of an estimated 903,000 years of healthy living annually. Next comes annoyance, which impairs people's well-being even if it has no direct impact on health, with a corresponding figure of 587,000 years, followed by learning deficits among school children estimated at 45,000, and tinnitus with 22,000. Cap on noise. Considering the overall impact, I think this really puts noise on a footing where it needs to be taken seriously, says Deepak Prasher, who studies the effects of noise on heart health at the Royal Surrey County Hospital in Guildford, UK. Governments need to acknowledge that it is a problem. Kim says that the European Commission has already set guideline maximum levels for nighttime noise of 40 decibels. That's about the same noise you would get in a library, he says. In countries of Eastern Europe that have joined the European Union more recently, the level has been set slightly higher, at 55 decibels, to allow them to adapt. The researchers collaborating on the report are still gathering data to set limits averaged across 24 hours. These need to be ready by 2013, when the revised version of Europe's 2002 Noise Directive is due. So, this was the first article that I wanted to read. This was just about showing that noise is a problem. It is a problem, it's not just a subjective problem, it is a collective problem, and the health impact of constant noise is devastating. It's absolutely devastating, and there's no question about that in the medical community. You can find loads of these articles, so that is not a contentious issue. There's no debate about that. It has gotten absolutely out of hand, and yeah, I do count the dog barking in it as well. I mean, it's just an absolutely debilitating, appalling habit here. And yeah, so you see that noise can actually kill and causes loads of health problems. Now, I would like to go into a second article that looks as well at noise or sound, but from a totally different perspective. This article is from medicaldaily.com, and it is about torture methods with sound. So I'm going to read this, and then I will somehow try to tie the two things together afterwards. Torture methods with sound: how pure noise can be used to break you psychologically. It's by Justin Kaba. It's from January 20, 2015. Have you ever got a song stuck in your head that you just can't seem to shake? That catchy piece of music on a recurrent loop in your brain, also known as an earworm, may seem torturous, but pales in comparison to actual sound torture employed for military purposes. Sound torture is a type of psychological warfare used to break the will of prisoners using loud music or white noise. While many of us use music to escape or even center ourselves, it can also be used as an instrument of torture under the right conditions. Sound torture during the Iraqi War. After details emerged regarding the US military's use of torture during the Iraqi War, common methods of physical torture, including waterboarding, hooding, and physical abuse, came under immense national and global scrutiny. The use of torture remains a widely debated issue when it comes to the treatment of military detainees. Music torture is currently banned by the United National Convention Against Torture, but it is still permitted under US law. Errol Morris' 2008 documentary Standard Operating Procedure focused on abuse and torture of prisoners at the Abu Ghraib prison in 2003 by US soldiers. A clip from the film features a US soldier explaining the use of deafening music to have a psychological impact on prisoners of war. So-called no-touch torture is by many considered more humane compared to waterboarding or hooding, but it's just as effective when it comes to coaxing information out of military prisoners. Other forms of no-touch torture that are combined with sound torture include sleep deprivation, controlling the temperature of interrogation rooms, and violating the prisoner's religious or cultural beliefs. Even though the prisoner is not harmed physically, human rights activists still find these techniques to be a violation of basic human rights. How sound torture works. Certain interrogation reports highlight the use of loud music reaching upwards of 79 decibels for weeks and even months. Heavy metal music, such as Metallica's Enter Sandman, Rage Against the Machine's Killing in the Name Of, and Dayside's Fuck Your God, often ends up on the CIA's torture playlist. However, the most popular song used to torture prisoners at Guantanamo Bay and other detention centers in Iraq and Afghanistan was I Love You by Barney the Purple Dinosaur. In addition to the ear-splitting decibel level, the music's content is often chosen to offend the prisoner's cultural beliefs. Sergeant Mark Hatzel from the U.S. Psychological Operations Company told Newsweek, "These people haven't heard any heavy metal. They can't take it. If you play it for 24 hours, your brain and body functions start to slide, your train of thought slows down, and your will is broken. That's when we come in and talk to them." Although it may elicit the desired psychological effect of weakening the mental state of detainees, Vice President of the PsyOps Veterans Association Rick Hoffman said the interrogation technique has no long-term effect on the prisoner. Still, soldiers who were required to undergo sound torture for 45 minutes as a part of their training would rather not do it again. No matter how loud the music is or what its lyrics are about, the result is the same: the incessant use of music to cause discomfort among prisoners. Music used to break down the resistance of an enemy during interrogation is described as futility music. Professor Suzanne Cusick from NYU studied the effect of music torture in her 2009 paper. You are in a place that is out of the world. Music in the detention camps of the global war on terror. She describes futility music as a technique used to persuade a detainee that resistance to interrogation is futile. History of sound torture. Sound torture is nothing new. In fact, using sound to psychologically attack an enemy has roots in the ancient Aztec culture. The Aztec death whistle served a variety of purposes, from human sacrifice rituals to warfare. During a siege on enemy territory, the Aztec warriors would sound the death whistle in an effort to cause their enemies psychological discomfort before the impending battle. The skull-shaped tool produces a terrifying screech that has to be heard to be believed. The US has also employed sound torture outside of the Iraqi war. In December 1989, Panama's military dictator Manuel Noriega took refuge in the Vatican Embassy a few days after President George Bush launched Operation Just Cause, an invasion of Panama aimed toward overthrowing Noriega. The US military broadcasted a playlist that included Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses, and Van Halen's Panama over a military radio station. While General James D. Thurman said music acted as a sound barrier that would prevent journalists from listening in on negotiations with Noriega supporters, none could dismiss the psychological pressure it put on both the Vatican Embassy and Noriega. Noriega surrendered to the US military on January 3, 1990, after 10 days of listening to the hard rock playlist. Between February 28 and April 19, 1993, federal and state military and law enforcement in Texas executed what is now known as the Waco Siege. The siege took place at the Mount Carmel Center that housed the Branch Davidians, a religious group led by David Koresh. Over the course of 7 weeks, the FBI used an unconventional playlist that included Tibetan chants, Christmas carols, and Nancy Sinatra's "These Boots Are Made for Walking," to weaken the will of besieged Koresh followers. In the end, a fire, allegedly started by sect members, killed 76 people, including Koresh. So, this is what I wanted to show you. So first of all, I tried to establish that noise is a medical problem that clearly causes loads of health issues and can even kill you. And secondly, that noise can be used as torture, and it is being used as torture. It is actually pretty interesting to especially go into that torture topic, because you would be, if you read about that, you would actually be surprised how quickly people break under noise torture. It is one of the most effective things to just completely destroy people's mind and people's mental resistance. There's a lot of debate going on about the efficiency of noise torture or torture in general, and lots of people say that the information that you extract under torture is mostly useless. And I really don't know anything about that. So I'm not a medical expert. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not some kind of military expert. So that is a different topic. But it is not a contentious issue that noise as a torture method will break people extremely quickly, and they will just do absolutely anything to make it stop. And every military interrogator or even police interrogator probably can confirm to you that this is the fact. This is true, and there's no question about it. Now, this video here I actually made because I was inspired by another YouTuber that I also feature on my channel, and that is Defenders of Humans and the Natural World. And there was one particular video on that channel which is called Barking Dogs Are Ruining Our Lives. And that video is probably just one of the, or is probably, I would say, the best video on the entire internet about dog barking and how dog barking is a problem. She put an awful lot of work into that video, and it's the amount of interesting facts and studies that she presents is just absolutely insane. And so, yeah, props to her. It really is worth checking out. It is a fantastic video, and she goes into loads of medical facts, and there were loads of things that I didn't know. I learned a lot. Also, how different people react differently to constant noise, and what noise just does to us in general. So, and why the dog barking in particular is so triggering for many people, and why it does drive you so insane. So I try not to repeat the stuff that she said. Go over to her channel and check that video out. It really is absolutely fantastic. It is a shame that the video does not have millions of views, but yeah, it shows that usually the really good stuff on YouTube or these social media does usually not get enough attention, and people rather watch stupid dog videos, or I don't know, people doing stupid challenges or something that gets millions of clicks. But the good stuff usually goes more or less unnoticed. But, well, it's good when we notice it, at least. So I just wanted to read these two articles as kind of addition to her video, and I wanted to put up some other questions here, or some other remarks, and especially because you can see how many dogs are actually getting killed by people who snap. And I mean, I have presented one or two of these stories in my previous videos, like the one that was titled Too True to Be Good. And in my last Sunday rant, I went into a TV report about a neighbor killing, or like a guy shooting his neighbor's dog. And the amount of comments and remarks that you always get from people after such a such an incident, as they like to call it, is always that even the people who are often sympathetic and say, yeah, okay, this person was tortured for years by noise, they often say that nonetheless resorting to violence is absolutely unacceptable. And how could you? You know, how dare you? How could you? This is often a type of comment that you hear. When people snap, they're not themselves anymore, and I would really challenge any of those virtue signaling preachers that like to wiggle their index fingers and go on about, yeah, violence is never an acceptable solution. Yeah, of course. Look, I'm not a fan of violence either. But you should be subjected to this type of torture yourself for an extended period of time, and then I want to see you talking. Then I want to see you talking. So I really, this is coming from people who are just sitting in a comfortable armchair and kind of, yeah, giving great theoretical advice to people who are in extremely distressing situations and who are just being psychologically broken, and whose mental health has been eroded and dismantled for months or even years. And then these people come and give this kind of patronizing and dumb advice. It's just so stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. And I would actually even argue that you probably know the legal definition of self-defense. So self-defense is used, when self-defense is basically that you are allowed to use violence in one exception, and that is to defend yourself, to defend yourself from bodily harm if somebody is putting your life at risk. Now, since noise can kill you, you might actually argue, I know that might be outrageously controversial, but hey, I can say whatever I like. You might actually argue, since we have established now that noise can kill you, that your defense against noise could actually be legally counted as self-defense. So that then you cannot wiggle your index fingers anymore. I would like to see you talk, after being subjected to this kind of torture for an extended period of time. Now, here in Hungary, I am absolutely convinced that loads of people die because of this noise, but it's just not. This is not something that is on people's radar. They just don't care. And like the state of health of people in Hungary is generally extremely catastrophic. Like, you have loads of people here with that are obese. You have loads of people with heart disease, and it's just crazy how unhealthy people here are living, or how unhealthily they are living. Like, you hardly see anybody here actually doing sports. Like, I myself, I'm really not a big into sports, and I should do much more. But at least I like to go running, and I'm just waiting for the temperature to rise a little bit so I can go outside and have my, like, 2 or 3 times a week that I'll go running. And you just never see anybody doing anything. They don't do anything. They don't go. You have a few people going to the fitness center, but yeah, all right. It's mostly young people, and people here have such unbelievably unhealthy lifestyles. They just eat, like, the food is extremely unhealthy. people here smoke a lot, and people drink unbelievable amounts of alcohol, and they just don't care. It's just not on their radar, and the mentality here is that you just live unhealthily for years and decades, and then when you are 50 and you already have 2 heart attacks, then you just go to the doctors and you expect them to give you some pills that will just solve your problem. That is what people expect here. Like they don't have it on their radar that they themselves are responsible for their health, or at least partly responsible. I mean, you cannot control everything, but I mean, you can push it into a better direction or into a worse direction. It's up to you. But people just don't want to take responsibility here. Just like they don't want to take responsibility for their dogs. It's just too much hassle. And I mean, it is medically also established that dog barking or just noise in general, even if you are asleep, your ears do not stop working. I mean, it's not that your ears are asleep. You still hear the noise in your sleep, and it actually affects your health negatively. So it makes your blood pressure go up, and if you are exposed to noise during your sleep, even if you don't remember the noise when you wake up, and if you subjectively think that you had a good sleep, the noise is still affecting your health negatively. So that's also one of the findings from loads of medical studies. And I am absolutely convinced that this as well is actually something that is causing loads of health problems here. It's extremely widespread in the Hungarian population, especially heart disease. Like, it's crazy how many people you find here that already had heart attacks with 40 or 45. And I'm totally sure that this also has a connection with the noise, and that this is contributing to this. But this is just absolutely not on the radar of people here, because it's like they just don't deal with such things, and not even the medical community here is dealing with this, because system the healthcare system in Hungary is so catastrophically underdeveloped, and on such a low level that doctors don't really have time to deal with this. Like, they don't have money for any research or anything, so this is not even on any kind of research groups radar, or on the government's radar or anything. They have totally different problems that they are dealing with. They hardly have money to buy their lunch, so they don't have money for such studies, and it'll probably take another 50 years for them to actually realize that there is a problem. So yeah, that is what I wanted to say regarding the noise, guys. I hope you're having a good day, and hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.